So writing skills that are unique to summarizing. Um, what learners have to be able to do when summarizing is they have to be able to choose how to condense and paraphrase or combine different ideas into their own words. And this is probably as difficult as it sounds, because rewriting something in your own words, or taking two ideas, or taking two paragraphs and combining them into one, is really, really difficult. Your skills of text construction have to be pretty well developed, which is, and the difficulty explains, I think, why so often, at least in my summarizing lessons, learners have a tendency to plagiarize without even meaning to. But also you have to be able to determine, if I include all of the details in my summary that are in the original, well, why am I reading your summary? The effective summary very carefully and judiciously selects and includes only the most important details. And when a learner is looking at a whole text, he very often thinks that, well, all the details are important. How do I choose what's important, what's not important? How do I choose what to include, what to exclude? When writing a summary, you need to be able to write a main idea sentence. Even if a main idea is not clearly stated in the original, you have to be able to write it. You have to be able to write an outline. One thing that I recommend is that have students write an outline and then write their summary from their outline, not from the original. This will make the summary more unique, and it will make them less likely to plagiarize. When writing a summary, you have to be able to maintain consistent verb tense. You have to be able to refrain from putting anything that suggests that you're expressing your opinion about the article, and of course you have to avoid plagiarizing. So let's look at some of these more closely and see what kinds of classroom activities will help students to develop these. So, condensing several related ideas and synthesizing them into paraphrases. Well, you can, as a scaffolding activity, you can ask students to look at only short excerpts, and like the activity that I exemplified earlier, you can ask them to work in groups or in pairs to create a paraphrase. So singling out a specific writing skill related to summarizing. You can provide paraphrases that you wrote or that other students wrote and ask them to compare them to the original. What are they similar? Are they different? Are the paraphrases successful recreations of the original or not? And then you can provide several paraphrases of your own of one original text and ask your learners to choose the one that they think is the best. Let's look at first pre-reading. And here's an example activity. And what we have here is the headline from a newspaper article from the Washington Post, and a photograph from that article, and then a caption underneath the photograph. And what you can do is ask your students, based on what you see here, the headline, the photograph, and the caption, what do you expect this article to be about? And making a prediction about a text is an extremely valuable pre-reading skill, because by making successful predictions about a text, you can choose texts more successfully. In other words, you might be able to choose something that you would enjoy with greater skill, which of course increases how much you read, increases your confidence in reading. But also making predictions about a text helps to, if you do it successfully, generate your background knowledge related to the topic, which will make the reading process easier and more rewarding. And so one thing that an effective reader does, for example, when looking at a newspaper, when you begin to read a newspaper, you don't start at the top of page 1, read to the bottom of page 1, and then go to page 2 and do the same thing. That's not how we read a newspaper. We read a newspaper by scanning the page, looking for things that might be interesting to us. And one way of doing that is just by looking at the headline, or looking at the pictures, or looking at the caption. And so you can ask your learners, when you look at this, what do you expect to see? Another writing skill unique to summarizing, determining which details to include and which to exclude. And students can, to practice this skill, they can work in groups to write the details they remember from a text and decide together which are most important. So you have them read it in class, and then you have them turn it over so they can't see it, and work together to decide what do they remember. And most of the time, that which students remember is actually the most important. And then you can, in the writing process, within which I always use a peer review step where the learners share their writing with each other, you can ask your student to read your partner's summary and evaluate it based on the details that he selected. In other words, you can ask the student, after reading your partner's summary, can you understand the original without reading the original? Writing a main idea sentence. You can, if you know the rhetorical structure of the text, tell your students where the main idea can be found, so they know where to look. So they are also familiar with the rhetorical structure. And you can give them specific instructions on how you expect them to create a main idea sentence and then where to place it in the summary. Generally speaking, the main idea sentence goes at the very beginning of your summary. For example, here are some instructions that I have given my students when it comes to writing the main idea. I ask them, now, can you find the main idea? Underline the sentence that you think explains the article's main idea best. Finally, write the main idea below in your own words. Don't forget to start with an introductory phrase that includes the title of the article and the author's name. Work alone and then share your main idea sentence with your groupmates. Hint, don't look at the article while you write. This will help you to use your own words. These are all skills that I want them to eventually internalize. But at this stage, it acts as a model and as a form of scaffolding to help them to develop the skills. Writing an outline is a skill unique to summarizing. And how do you help students to write effective outlines? Well, you can show them what an outline looks like. You can give them a sample and have them examine it. You can require them to write an outline with every assignment and ask them to turn it in with their summary. You can give them an outline that has been started and ask them to finish it. And then, of course, you can ask them or help them to identify different types of transitions within a text that they are summarizing, because each transition may signify a new point in their outline. So, for example, here's an outline that has been begun, and the learner has been asked to finish it. And so at this point, the learner is not expected to be able to create his own outline, but this activity will help him to develop those skills. So the main idea has been provided, and you'll see below 3 of the 5 important details have been provided as well. And the student's job, either independently or in groups, is to complete numbers 2 and 4. Another writing skill unique to summarizing is maintaining consistent verb tense. This is pretty simple, but also very important. And when writing a summary, you need to decide what verb tense you're going to use. Your main verb tense, is it going to be present or is it going to be past? Usually it's present. And so you can remind students of this. But what I like to do is ask my learners to place themselves in the position of the author at the time of writing when thinking of past, present, and future. For example, here's what I might tell my learner in their instructions for their summary. Imagine you are the journalist who wrote this article. You are now sitting at your computer and writing what will become the article the class just finished reading. How do you know what verb tense to use? You can ask yourself these three questions. What has already happened? What is happening now or is true today? What is going to happen next? From that point of view, what has already happened will be in the past tense. What is happening now or is true today will be in present. And what's going to happen next will be in future. Avoiding the inclusion of opinion. It's important to remind students that all they're doing is creating a recreation of an original text in their own words, and so it must be a faithful and accurate representation of the original. You can ask them to look at a summary that you created or a summary that you modified with opinion inserted into it, and ask them to analyze it and see if they can find the opinion. You can include activities in the peer review stage of the writing process that have them look for opinion in their classmates' summaries. And for example, here is an activity, directions. With your partner, discuss any problems you find in the following paraphrase. So here's the original from the article. Many errors are due to doctors' infamously illegible handwriting. Other mistakes involve allergies or problematic interactions with another medication. And the student's job is to look at this possible paraphrase and analyze it for any problems. Errors happen because doctors are careless and have poor handwriting, and because people have allergies and do not understand drug interactions. Well, the problem with this paraphrase is with the word careless. There is nothing in the original that suggests that doctors are careless. All it says is that doctors are famous for having poor handwriting. Inserting the word careless is, whether the student meant to do it or not, is the inclusion of opinion, and this has no place in summarizing. Avoiding plagiarism. Like I said before, you can require students to write their summaries from their outlines. You can tell the students the rule of 3, which means no more than 3 words lifted from the original, 3 words together from the original, and remind them that a summary is written for someone who didn't read the original. So there's no reason to include text from the original in your summary. If you're going to do that, you may as well just read the original. And that's it. So I hope that what I conveyed here is how we can take the development of reading skills and the development of writing skills and combine them into one lesson. And one example that I gave you, of course, is summarizing. But of course, when writing an essay, we can do this as well. Any type of writing assignment which involves reading a text includes, well, the practice of pre-reading skills, in-reading skills, and post-reading skills, and also includes the writing skills that we have been talking about all throughout this course. And the better we know our learners, the more able we are to create a lesson that exploits that which our learners already know how to do, but also models and gives them opportunity to practice new strategies that we hope eventually will become skills.